Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the always online multiplayer gaming podcast. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, and we're doing the show live. Twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Of course, it's Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. That means it's time to talk multiplayer gaming news. We've got a great show for you, departures from companies, and then we've got a lot of changes across some games. Not all might be well received, though. We're going to go through that, and then we're going to see if should Square Enix maybe be a little worried. All that and more on today's show. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on iTunes or Spotify, we thank you so much. Appreciate it. Give it a like, a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment. All that good stuff that feeds the algorithm. And don't forget, on YouTube and on MMOBomb, to give us your weekly bombs and question of the week answers in the comments. You're a vital part of the show. Joining me today, once again, in a little bit of darkness, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
I just want to point out that you said we have a great show and then immediately followed it up by people are leaving companies.
People are leaving companies.
Like, so exciting.
Yay. Exciting. Also on the line, Mr. Troy Blackburn, the noob fridge himself. What's up, boss?
Just chilling, not leaving companies.
It's just not. Well, I mean, given that I'm your boss, I'm glad to hear that.
So, Mike, I gotta go.
Dodged a one-chip bullet there. Woo! Got it. Hey, before we get really started in like the news stuff, yes, we are aware of like all the Unity stuff going on. It could have taken a good portion of today's show to talk about the Unity fiasco. Or what I call How to Set Your Company on Fire in 3 Days, an autobiography by Unity. That is obviously a big deal right now. We'll see how it all plays out. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it today. I know there's some bombs. We'll maybe give our thoughts in there. If you do want to hear more about that, though, Yod, Zista, and I will be talking about that on the Gaming Gumbo podcast tomorrow night. So you can get those thoughts there in full rather than just some kind of encapsulated thoughts as we go along today. On that note, let's get started with the news. Troy has off from Gaming Gumbo, so maybe, Troy, I'll give you a couple extra minutes on your Unity thoughts when we get there. I know there's a bomb, so we'll kind of throw them in there. So there's a few departures from the world of gaming this week, and some of them are a little higher profile than we usually see. On the Epic Games side, we're seeing the chief creative officer who has been there 25 years, Donald Mustard. Not Colonel Mustard, Donald Mustard. That's a Clue reference. Look it up. Departing the company. Yeah, the movie's great. Yeah, Tim Curry's phenomenal. He actually was part of the help create Fortnite team, departing after 25 years, tweeting, "After an incredible adventure, I'll be retiring from my role as chief creative officer at Epic this month. I have enjoyed nearly 25 years in the game industry, collaborating with some of the most talented people ever, and I'm so proud of what we've made together, from the ambitious Advent Rising," oh my god, remember that? "to the start of Chair, where we created Undertow, Shadow Complex, and the Infinity Blade trilogy, to the honor of our tiny team becoming part of Epic. Each new chapter allowed me to accomplish something new and original. I'm especially proud of the opportunity I've had to help create and shape Fortnite. I'm humbled to have been part of the team that every day tries to bring joy and delight to the Fortnite community. We love watching you experience every moment. Leaping from the battle bus for the very first time, seeing the rocket crack open the sky, dancing with friends after a victory royale, being sucked into a black hole, or being washed out to sea as the island flipped over, and on and on. I can't wait to now share in the future of Fortnite as a player alongside all of you. The teams are in the best hands, and they're working on huge, jaw-dropping, amazing things. I'm excited to spend time with my wife and family, and forever grateful to Tim Sweeney and the Epic Games family." So not so much like we've seen in maybe the last few years, departures to go somewhere else, at least not initially. It doesn't appear to be that. or go try something out on their own. We've seen like a lot of the old longtime Blizzard heads leave and a couple of years later kind of spin up their own types of things, some of them jumping ship and going to Riot and then leaving to go do their own things. Troy, this seems a little more like, you know what? It's time to retire. It's time to retire.
25 years is a long time, man, no matter what you're doing. A lot of people put in a lot of hard work over that long period of time, and sometimes you just want to step away and take a moment and live life a little bit. So hate to see him go, but congratulations on 25 years, and you've got Fortnite in your back pocket. You can always say, hey, I was part of the team that developed one of the biggest games in the world.
Looking at some of the feedback, it's kind of surprising. Like, there aren't a lot of games out there. I mean, you think maybe Final Fantasy 14, and a lot of people that have played automatically think, Yoshi P, right? There are some games that have that person tie to the game that you just immediately think of them or think of their face. It's not often that they're like the chief creative officer of particular companies, the really high up execs. But if you look through the comments, there are a lot of people that are actually kind of upset that Donald is parting ways here from the Fortnite team.
I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like, if you're a fan of something, you know who all the people are that are involved. So it's kind of like me knowing who David Tennant's hairdresser is. Like, it's just one of those things.
Wait, you know who David Tennant's hairdresser is?
Yep.
Like, I'm a David Tennant fan. I don't know who his hairdresser. Who's his hairdresser?
Well,
Let's throw some credit, I guess.
Stevie Smith.
Well, there you go. Stevie, shout out for David Tennant's hair on the Multiplayer Gaming Podcast. But there's a lot. Like, congratulations. Thanks for helping create such a great game. I was not ready for this. Like, the only reason I play this is because of you. I'm a huge Square Enix fanboy. I can't name the creative officer. I can't name if they even have a chief creative officer. Obviously, I can producer, director Yoshi P on this project, the president of the company, that type of stuff. But there are other execs. I couldn't tell you who they are. Apparently, Donald, well known and very well liked in the Fortnite world.
I would say too, right? Fortnite started out as a smaller project, and by the time, like, say you get into Final Fantasy 14 and stuff like that, Square Enix is this huge monolith with a whole bunch of people involved, and therefore you have like the person. I mean, remember back in the day when we actually did know who everybody at Blizzard was?
I mean, he's the chief creative at Epic. He's not just Fortnite. Like, he's
right.
Epic.
But he started out with Fortnite, and I bet you
with Epic,
a lot of those people just like they followed him as you do. But like I said, remember when we could tell you who everybody at Blizzard was before Blizzard became Activision Blizzard and all of that jazz? Like, you knew who everybody in there was. So I think it's kind of the same thing. It's
you are a legendary chief. You're an amazing person. You're the best player. You are our family of Fortnite. Have fun spending time with your family forever. Absolutely legendary leadership. We love you. Like, this is not what you expect on a lot of departure things, Troy. Like, lately in gaming, when somebody leaves, the Twitter's like, oh, thank God, get the hell out.
Get the guy out of the way. He's an old man with old ideas. This guy's only 47 years old. I just looked it up because he looked kind of like youngish to be retiring in his Twitter bio pic. So I was like,
if curious. If I could retire right now, I would.
Right. So I could see him taking a few years and then jumping back and creating like a passion project or something like that. I could see him jumping back in at some point.
Yeah, and your boy Jeff Keighley seems to share that sentiment, saying that he can't wait for the next season of Donald Mustard. The next season. This one I think is a little more interesting in So Phoenix Labs, the Dauntless team, also Fae Farm just recently came out, and they've been sending us a lot of stuff about Fae Farm, but it just doesn't meet our coverage scope being a multiplayer gaming website. If you're enjoying Fae Farm, great. Let us know in the comments, no problem. But we don't cover it news-wise. So Phoenix Labs, Dauntless developer, and now Fae Farm developer, they're actually having two key changes at the same time here. The CEO and the COO, so executive and operations, are both stepping down. They're both leaving the company. So there's Jesse Houston on the CEO side and Jean Marie Owens on the COO side are both stepping down. Now, Houston is going to remain active on the board of directors and will be kind of an advisor to Phoenix Labs. And Owens is just going to take kind of like an advisory role. After nearly a decade, I feel like I can step back from the day-to-day operations at Phoenix Labs, said Houston. The future has never looked brighter. We'll get to that in a second. We've got an amazing pipeline of games in development, and our incredible Fae Farm just launched for the Nintendo Switch and PC. I couldn't be prouder of everything that the team has achieved together. Now, it's also reported that co-founders Sean Bender and Robin Main actually left the company earlier this year. They just cited personal reasons for them stepping down. So that's quite a few high-level step downs in a company that, you know, Fae Farm seems to be initially well received. That's great. Maybe they do have other projects in the pipeline that they're excited about. That's great too. Can't wait to see them. But Dauntless, on the other hand, Troy, has kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of been floating lately. We used to get update after update after update to Dauntless, and then they released that recent roadmap with weapon swapping and stuff, and people were like, well, why? We just want more behemoths to go fight. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends who jump in and out of Dauntless every now and then, and it's the same story every time they go back. They're like, it's still the same game. Like at the end of the day, there's no new stuff to do. There's no new stuff to go kill, and they'll play for a couple of days and they're back out of it, and they're like, well, there just really isn't anything going on. Like we tried to give another chance. We want to like this game a lot, and they like the core gameplay mechanics. But there's just there's no updates, no new things going on in the game, and it's sort of gotten stale for a lot of players.
And remember, this was a company that got bought back in 2020. They got bought, and then they managed to secure funding and buy themselves back a few years later this year, early 2023, like in February. So. Yeah, back into their own ownership hands, and now some pretty multiple high-level departures. I don't know if you can ever look at, like, one-offs like Donald Mustard leaving Epic. You can kind of go, okay, well, he's been doing it for 25 years. Maybe he just wants to go be with the family. He's made more money than he probably knows what to do with in his position at Fortnite. Go spend it on the family for the rest of your life. Cool. Yeah, if we could all retire at 47, I'm sure we would. Then you look at something like this and you're like, wait a minute. There were some co-founders that left earlier. Earlier this year, they were just able to buy themselves back with some funding that they had secured. And now we have multiple executives leaving. I don't know how you can look at that and just go, that's coincidence versus is something going on? Maybe there isn't, but I think it's hard not to look at it and go, what's going on at Phoenix Labs?
Yeah, it's one of those weird situations. I think what makes it weirder too is that, like, at least in the article, right, it says that it's been reported that they left earlier this year. Like
the other two, Sean Bender and Robin
right,
Main, yeah.
Right. The other two, like the founders, they kind of just left earlier this year, and there was no noise about that until like that feels a little weird to me. That that it's being reported now in the wake of two others. Not leaving, but stepping back. But I mean, stepping back to do like board stuff and stuff like that also just kind of feels like an easier way to make money without having to be terribly involved in what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not ready to give up the paycheck, totally. But I'm ready to give up some of it.
I'm tired of doing the work.
I'm tired of doing the work, but you can pay me to be here and be an advisor.
I don't want to do First Looks or the podcast or edit or assign any of your work anymore, but I'll sit on your advisory board for MMOBomb. That's not a problem. I will advise you. Q, you should put up news pieces. That's my advice.
You think? No.
That's my advice. Who knows?
Terrible idea.
I am really concerned about Dauntless. There was like radio silence for so long. Besides Gauntlet stuff, like Gauntlet resets, there was radio silence on new content. Then they put out that huge post about upcoming changes, and none of the changes, like every reaction I saw for it was like, we didn't ask for any of these. Like, what are you doing over there? I am very concerned about Dauntless, which is a shame because it is like the fun, hey, you don't want to spend money on Dragon Hunter? Then here's a free alternative that's basically that style of game. I like having stuff like that in the market, and it is fun. Well, was. I don't know where it goes from here. We'll see. Are you concerned about Dauntless? Let me know in the comments. Moving on, here's all kinds of changes that are coming up in various games as I write down my timestamp. However, I'm not sure how some of these are going to be received. Wayfinder is now doing a weekly post, or a bi-weekly post, sorry. Wayfinder Wednesdays. And I love when companies do this. They have like a steady, like This Week in Destiny and, those types of things where you're getting a steady pulse from the development team of what they're looking at, what they're hearing, and what they're going to be addressing soon. I like that idea. So let's give Wayfinder a thumbs up on a bi-weekly blog post of some type, giving you insight into development ideas. Wayfinder Wednesdays. The first one goes through quite a few different changes and talks about what shows they're going to be at coming up and things like that. We're going to skip all that because the one that I think, Troy, is going to cause a little bit of a problem are some inventory changes. And these aren't small inventory changes.
No, they're making pretty big inventory changes. In the name of server strain, they say to help the server strain, they're going to be limiting your inventories to 100 accessories and 300 echoes at a time.
Which right now the inventory is basically unlimited.
Yeah, which they say is causing server issues, or exacerbating server issues. I don't know if it's causing server issues, but it isn't making it any better. So basically, they're setting up so the players can sell their accessories to make some extra gold, and echoes can be broken down into echo dust that can be used to infuse other echoes that you wanna use. It is important to note that the first time you log in, you're not necessarily going to lose everything. They're going to give you a chance to sell off extra accessories and the dust that you want to, and the echoes that you want to dust the first time you log in. That way you can kind of pick and choose which ones you're keeping and which ones you're getting rid of. But you are going to need to get down to those 100 accessories and 300 echoes whenever you log in for the first time.
This is one of those weird ones for me, Q. Like, as a developer, a software developer, I'm sitting in the background going, well, yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see why you're doing this. Your servers initially couldn't hold the players, let alone all the data that goes into a player and their inventory and everything. Now that you've kind of stabilized that, or at least are continuing to head in the right direction there, I can see why. But how was this not addressed pre-early access launch? And I know that's what they're going to default on, right? We thought we could get away with giving you an unlimited inventory. Early access has proven that it can't, so we have to address it. I just don't know how this wasn't an issue, because it always feels like inventory space is one of those pain points in most multiplayer games anyway, and especially in free-to-play games. And here we go. Hey, you had unlimited. Now you only have 100 accessory slots. That's kind of a big jump.
Yeah, that's kind of insane because most gamers are pack rats.
Mm-hmm.
If we can hold on to something, we will. I don't know how the inventory in Wayfinder works. I don't know if there's like stackable items or whatever, right? Because like say Genshin Impact, you have basically an unlimited inventory, but so much of the stuff just stacks that it's pretty much an item with a number next to it, right?
Yeah.
But if you were having difficulty just supporting the characters on your server, I don't know what would make you think that having an unlimited inventory is also a good idea like at that time anyway. And it would have made more sense to start with a limited inventory and then maybe expand on it.
Yeah, imagine that.
And you wouldn't have pissed any players off that way, because players would have been like, cool, I now have, half again or double or whatever the inventory. It still wouldn't be enough, obviously, because it's never enough. But people would have been way more happy about that than what they're doing now. And now, right, they stuck players with the arduous task of going through this unlimited inventory and picking out 100 items to keep. Like,
now, some of the stuff that they have planned, because this wasn't the only piece of, hey, we're working on the server stuff. Some of the other stuff is definitely good stuff, right? Thumbs up and making sure that, hey, you know, the servers are stable. They're addressing disconnect issues. They continue to do, like, there are good things in here. It's definitely worth the read. But that was the one thing immediately I read and I was like, ugh, it's a looter shooter, or basically, right? It's a looter shooter. And now my accessories inventory is limited. That feels bad. That feels bad for a game that's made for go do crap and pick up as much as you can while you're doing it. But not too much. Not too much, Troy.
Not too much. And to me, that's not nearly as bad as phase 2 of the plan, which they're going to implement at a later date, in which you will only be able to access your inventory, swap weapons, and change characters at signifiers or at skylight. Switching characters, I could kind of see maybe limiting to at signifiers or in skylight, but just accessing your inventory to swap weapons, you have to be at a signifier or in skylight. That just seems excessive to me and over restrictive.
That was one of my favorite things, was like you get in a dungeon with a bunch of people and you're getting mauled and you're like, you know what, let me swap weapons and be at range instead of at melee for this fight. You know, it's going to help out on some close range AoEs and stuff like that. No, you won't. You'll have to have a signal fire to be able to do that. I don't know. Some of the stuff's good, though. Definitely check out the post. Sounds
like they're trying to improve the game. They're maybe going a little overboard on parts of it, but overall, I think they're trying to make improvements to the game, which is good.
We finally have confirmation that the next Sims will, in fact, be free to play. Now, we've theorized that since June of this year when we saw the job posting go up for help with what I think is Project Renee is the code name for it right now. And they were looking for an in-game marketplace, somebody that had experience working with in-game marketplaces, free and paid, and a own pricing of all content in a free to enter game. So we had that speculation going. That's now been confirmed, that pricing of all content for a free-to-enter game. The Sims VP of Franchise Creative, Lindsay Pearson, discussed the game on a Behind the Sims community update, where she stated that there won't be an initial price or subscription. Presentation also noted that the team will add content as time goes on, and the monetization model will be different from Sims 4, but they really don't know how yet, or at least they're just not willing to say publicly. The Sims 4 is already monetized out the ass, and that was not free to enter. I might be a little concerned about this one, Q. While I like the idea of a free-to-play Sims, I think it makes sense. Look at what they did to The Sims 4, and thank God you can keep that stuff, by the way, and they're not abandoning development on that, because there are people that have spent hundreds of dollars on that DLC.
Thousands.
Yeah, thousands. It's not even a joke. You're right.
Yeah, I actually follow, and I'm not really sure how I ended up following these people, but there are several Sims specific people on my Twitter feed. And
Are they real or are they Sims?
They're real.
Okay.
At least as far as I know, unless we are actually living in a big simulation. But anyway, yeah, they're constantly like, giving out packs and stuff, right, for the Sims and everything. And it's just like every time you turn around, there's a new pack and another new pack and another new pack. So it doesn't even matter that you can get the Sims 4 for free now, because if you really want to get into the game, you're still spending a lot of money to get all those packs.
This is also EA, Troy. Any confidence that this can be done in a way that doesn't just feel like, cool, the free version's a demo, I need $200 to actually do what I want to do in this damn game?
I have no confidence in that whatsoever. That's absolutely going to be $5 to buy a toilet, $2 to buy some food, $20 to buy a new shirt. It's going to be egregious. It's going to be horrendous. It's going to be predatory. It's going to be they're going to strip out parts of the game and put it in the cash shop. The base game is going to be a demo at best. at best, if it even works properly, it's going to be a monetization nightmare.
Yes, this is EA, Tori. So let me. I can't say I disagree with you. Just look at my weekly bomb. But let me devil's advocate just for a second. Like Hugh mentioned, the way Sims 4 is monetized now is a lot of DLC, right? A lot of this pack, that pack, this pack.
It's not even now. That's the way it's always been.
Yeah, it's always been.
monetized.
It's always
just
been.
that in the
No,
beginning
the
you
now-
had to buy in.
Right. The now portion that I was getting to there was that the base game is usually on sale at deep discounts or even free, just at various points. Would you be okay with that? Like, would Troy, if you look at Sims 4, and they've said the model's going to be slightly different than Sims 4, they're just not ready to release that, and they're still making decisions. So it's not, from what they're saying, it's not going to be exactly like that. But would you be okay with, hey, Sims 4, this is what you got for free, and the rest of it is DLC? Are you okay if they said, hey, we're going to stick with the exact same plan, except from the get-go, Project Renee will be free. It will never have that you got to buy the box that Sims 4 had for a long time.
I would be more okay with that than what it's going to end up being. Even so, there's still so much stuff in them DLC packs. They sell DLC packs now that were base game features in Sims 1, for example. That, don't get me wrong, that had plenty of DLC too, but it wasn't as egregious as it is nowadays with the way that they push that kind of stuff. But I don't have any faith that it's going to be like that. I think that they're going to nickel and dime every little thing that they can. And I think the hope for, basically a free Sims 5 with DLC packs is probably out the window, and you're going to be paying for every little thing individually.
So if you look at Steam right now for Sims 4, Play the Sims 4 is currently free. There are 72 pieces of content available. This is not counting like the bundles stuff, right? Like where you can get 4 or 5 of these things in one package. They're just on Steam, 72 different packs. The Poolside Splash Kit, the Book Nook Kit, etc., etc. A lot of them are on sale for 30% off. Those sales come and go, so I can only give you the pricing as of right now. If you wanted to buy every single pack, all 72 of them, your price tag, Q, is just a mere $785.09. If you act now, when some of these things are 25, 30, and 50% off. If you act right now, I get you all 72 packs for less than $1,000. That's a deal right there.
That is a deal. I mean, I have The Sims 4 and I have several of the packs, but obviously I don't have all of those packs.
It's like a Paradox game. They do that too, where there's just so many DLCs you'll never catch up with them all.
Well, and the thing is like, unless you're really, really heavy into you're not gonna bother catching up with them all, because you're gonna look at them and be like, that pack's a little lame. I don't really need that one, right?
My Sims don't need toilets. Okay.
There's
I bought the
always
shrubbery
toilets in
pack.
Sim.
We're fine.
I mean, I torture my Sims anyway, so they don't actually need anything. It's just what I'm willing to grant them.
They're just crybabies.
Look,
Takal asking
I
if
have
City
legit
Skylines.
punished-
Go ahead, sorry.
I have legit punished Sims for not doing what I expected them to do when I created them.
Takal asking if City Skylines, a great game, is the same way. Yeah, very similar. Although the base game is not free, but it is another one you can always find for like $5 or $7 these days. The original City Skylines. 62 packs on Steam right now. You want to buy them all? Again, a lot are on sale from 20% to 75% here. But if you buy them all today, $246.28. Less than $250, you too can own all the City Skylines packages. Hey, man, that's a third of the cost of The Sims.
I don't think City Skylines has been out as long as Sims 4, but I'm not sure.
Who cares, man? Buy that content. That's all they care about. That
that is
content.
absolutely all they care about.
City Skylines is good though. I love City Skylines. But I don't buy DLC for any of that stuff. Way less than you expected, to be honest. I believe it. All right, more changes. Throne and Liberty producer put up a new letter talking about gameplay changes coming up and previews. And what I'm showing you in the B-roll is just kind of a quick video they put up showing some combat changes. Obviously, this has been a huge sticking point in everything that we've seen here in the West when it comes to Throne and Liberty, that and the kind of auto battling thing, which is shut off but not totally disabled yet. And so, yeah, they're addressing the issue by allowing attacks while you're moving. This is revolutionary. Never before been done in the MMO space. Allowing you to attack while moving, eliminating character conflicts in peaceful areas, reducing the inertial effect when changing direction. They've also diversified some combat options by introducing new types of skills, making weapon swapping more seamless. Now, they're also he also in this letter, and you can read it all on MMOBomb, talks about growth experience and experience levels between, this level and this level, the current temporary removal of auto hunting. Like, there's other things there, but combat has always been the big one, Troy. I know it's like less than a minute of footage. I gotta say, it does look better than it did. I'll give it that. But we're also not seeing the UI. We're not seeing how this is being controlled. We're not seeing the context. This is, the best circumstances they could have put this video in. Does it make you a little more interested in the combat changes or not?
It does, because it looks a heck of a lot better than what it looked like before, from what all the players were showing of how terrible the static combat was. So, like you said, this is a best case scenario for all of them. They're doing their best to make it look as actiony as they can. So, will it translate to actual gameplay when we get hands-on with it? I don't know. But yeah, re-interested in at least checking the game out again.
Q, I'll skip you because I know you weren't interested in that one anyway.
Yeah, and if I can't see the UI, I don't really care what it looks like. So
you are a UI stickler. You definitely are.
I want to see the UI.
xDefiant, the upcoming extraction shooter, excuse me, from Ubisoft. If you're wondering why you still haven't gotten a release date for something that's had multiple tests by now and seems ready-ish for as far as Ubisoft is concerned in most cases, yeah, it's because it can't pass certification with consoles.
Oh, Ubisoft.
Yeah, so as part of the testing phase for launch, internally, they obviously do a ton of testing. They know the requirements for certification, so they go through and test that. Now, when you submit your game to Sony for the PlayStation or Microsoft for the Xbox, right, if you don't know, when you submit a developed game, they're not necessarily checking for bugs, right? Like, oh, this was supposed to give me 100 experience. It seems to only be paying out 98. Or this gun, the animation is goofy. Like, it functions, but the animation is kind of locking. Or, like, they're not worried about that. Unless any of those bugs impact specific gameplay. I can't progress in the story of X game because of this inventory bug. Like, then, Sony will say something or Microsoft will say something. They're looking for compliance checks as far as it runs on the software, you're able to play it, the achievements, like all that type of stuff. They're not QAing your code for bug fixing or giving you a list of bugs. So they've done all that testing internally, then they ship it off. And PlayStation and Xbox, it did not pass. It did not pass the initial compliance checks, and so it was sent back to the team for compliance-related issues. So now the team has to work on all of those, rectify all those problems, resubmit it again, and then it could either pass, in which case, cool, they could give a launch date. There's also a conditional pass status that you can get from these companies where, hey, this doesn't pass right now, but we're willing to give you a conditional pass as long as you agree to day one patch this portion when you do launch. And then there's a fail. And so we don't have a release date for xDefiant yet because it hasn't passed, and they don't know which of those statuses they'll get when they do resubmit it, Troy. Talk about the confidence factor. Here's the thing, though. I will say, companies never tell you this information. It's easy to look at this and go, haha, Ubisoft. But there are many games that don't pass compliance checks with the companies, the third parties, that you just don't hear about. So I do have to give them credit on the transparency here of, hey, here's why you don't have a release date yet.
I believe it. I just kept that to myself, though. There's a reason they don't usually make that kind of stuff public, because it looks bad, especially for a company who, God, can't seem to get a win lately. They really need something to go right for them, and especially PR wise, in the eyes of the players and quite frankly the press. Something needs to go right for them, and nothing seems to be going their way still to this day. Go Skull and Bones.
Q, where's your take? I kind of appreciated the transparency. I'm not particularly interested in the game myself. I'll give it a try, no doubt, but it's not one I'm eagerly awaiting or anything. But I kind of appreciated this, like, hey, people are wondering, can we just get a damn release date? You've done so many tests. So many people have touched this game already. How can we not at least know what the release date is? And instead of them just coming out and saying, we're not ready to announce the release date, they're like, hey, here's why I can't give you an exact date. We could be looking at the end of September if we get the pass. We could be looking at the beginning or to mid of October if we get the day one patch compliance check. So we're not ready to give a date yet.
I mean, so on the one hand, from my view, it is nice, to kind of know these things and whatever. But I also actually see Troy's point, and it's partially from the perspective that a lot of gamers just aren't going to care the why. They just want it done. So,
that's true too.
So, and if you tell them, well, we were having difficulty with getting, passing the checks and this and that, and then they look at it and they're like, well, you're just incompetent, which is not entirely necessarily the case. I mean, based on their recent history in other games, you kind of start to think that might be the case, but it's not always the case, right? It's like some things, like it's not like developing a game is easy. And not like developing games for multiple platforms is a breeze.
What?
I know, right? But it is still one of those things, like it can either go in their favor if enough people are like, okay, cool, we totally understand. But if people are mad enough at them already, and it's just one other thing where they're just like, oh, well, you guys just suck, and it just totally backfires on them that they even brought it up. So
we'll say we'll have to keep an eye out on xDefiant. Still a dumb name.
It is a dumb name.
It's a really dumb name. Hey, the Embracer Group restructuring continues here after not getting $2 billion in a deal that they thought they were going to get the day before they had to report their finances. That's fun. What could be on the chopping block? We've already seen layoffs and closures and things like that of some of their smaller entities, and we anticipate we're going to see more. Back in 2021, Gearbox became part of the Embracer Group, and now the rumors are that they could be looking to offload Gearbox software. The rumor was it was with a Saudi gaming company, yeah. This one I think is interesting. They're considering selling the company. According to Reuters, 3 people familiar with the matter have stated that Embracer is considering selling the studio. The sources told Reuters that Embracer had received offers from parties, mostly international gaming groups, interested in the studio, and that they are considering those offers. Obviously, this puts Borderlands, on that block, but a lot of people forget not too long after they picked up Gearbox, Embracer picked up Perfect World and shot all that stuff into the Gearbox umbrella. So not only Borderlands, but we're talking Star Trek Online, Neverwinter, all of those Perfect World MMO library titles are now part of Gearbox, and so presumably would be part of any sale. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for Gearbox at the end of the day, Troy?
At the end of the day, I don't know that it's going to make a huge difference for them. I think they're going to go from one large investor group, probably picked up by another large investor group that isn't necessarily going to micromanage their day to day. That's going to pick them up and just be like, "Hey, make more Borderlands and make us some money." So I could see something like this. The Saudis, they're talking about how much money they want to invest in stuff, and they didn't partner with the Embracer Group allegedly. So
what if it was them that bought it? It was like, no, we're not going to buy you, but we'll buy your parts.
Yeah,
Like,
we're
no, we're not going to
invest of you that are left over once we destroy your company.
I don't want to invest in you, Q, but I'm going to buy anything you can't afford to keep when I don't invest in you.
I mean, isn't that the way a lot of this stuff works, though?
Yup.
Like one massive company, who, by the way, is not actually a game development company. Remember, Embracer Group was buying everything. I mean, they bought Dark Horse Comics. Like,
Well, I mean,
they
we've
were just
gone
out there
through.
buying everything, and you buy them up, and then you squish them together, right? So now you have everything squished into Gearbox, and you turn around and sell it to somebody else who will parse out the parts that they want and sell off those parts to somebody else. I mean, this is basically their future going forward. It's just being shuffled from large company to large company, and none of those companies will actually be game development companies. They'll just be investors.
I think we've seen this before with Sony Online Entertainment, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, there were times where Daybreak was trying to convince us they weren't bought by people that we were told they were bought by them. So
Yep.
we'll have to watch what happens.
Those were the days, man.
Yeah. It is interesting to see, like, more like Neverwinter and Perfect World International and games like that. It's just like, who owns us now? I don't know. Just keep buying
It's
from
like
the cash shop, please.
student loans. It's like student loans. You're like, one day you're like, all right, I'm owned by Sally Mae. Wait, what company is this?
I'm going to skip Overwatch just in the interest of time, but Overwatch is going to be cracking down on behavior. Imagine that. They say. I don't know. We'll watch. I want to see the numbers. Even inappropriate names. You would think that like that's something they've already been cracking down, but apparently some of you with Big Dick 69XX have been able to slip through the cracks.
Not anymore.
That's a terrible turn of phrase. That was. I'm gonna strike that one. That one.
Too late. It's already out there.
Yeah. And text and chat disruptions, stuff like that. They're gonna be whatever. We'll see. RuneScape, though, Troy. This is the story that continues to just yield fruit, huh?
Yeah, it does. They've implemented a battle pass or a hero pass, excuse me.
Oh, and it's just been on fire since then.
Yeah, and the players initially hated it just for the sake of hating it.
Just when it was revealed, it wasn't even launched, and they hated it.
Yeah, and then people started diving into it, and it started looking worse and worse for Jagex as they went along. And now they're talking about, hey, we're gonna, ease up on some of that. We're gonna change some of it around. We're gonna rebalance it, make some stuff easier to obtain than we initially announced. And oh, by the way, we may be for sale.
Yeah. And then they took out like the daily challenge system as part of this. Now that they're going to be putting that back in. And the Carlyle parent company over Jagex is apparently considering selling Jagex too. They're valuing the company at $1.25 billion. And there's expected to be an auction for the company. They're not selling it. They're going to auction it later this year. The private equity firm actually acquired Jagex in 2021 for about $530 million. Jagex's annual earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amorts are $75 million-ish, and that's expected to grow 10% year over year. So they're putting a valuation of $1.25 billion, and we could at least see, hey, is there interest in a purchase later this year in some type of auction format? Because that's always the way you want to do it. Just fire sale.
Just
let it go.
That's insulting. Like, how badly do you have to do that they're just going to be like, we'll just auction you off?
Yesterday, I posted an article in the early afternoon. Nexon's CEO, Owen, I'm forgetting his last name, Mahoney, I think, off the top of my head. It's probably in my article. Let me click here. I'm
The one thing I
going.
didn't have open, you must have added it later in the day.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that I did put his name in the article because I'm okay at writing. Owen Mahoney, CEO of Nexon, was actually talking to Bloomberg in a video interview. And the video interview was mostly about AI. And Q, we've discussed AI and how it could potentially help various things in the game industry on this show before. So I really wanted to get his take. I was interested in this video. I was like, okay, cool, yeah. What is a CEO of or the president of a games company saying about AI? And yeah, he said all the things that you would think, right? AI can help streamline certain processes. It can make things faster. He was all about speed, speed, speed. He was talking about how it could potentially put developers and creatives closer to a project. The one thing he didn't say out loud, but all of his pieces alluded to, was the fact that it replaces employees. He used specific examples of, we can generate a gun off of a picture of a gun via AI and then manually modify it as needed. We can train via AI an NPC on how to walk. And they're actually using that technology in the upcoming Arc Raiders game. And they said that bypasses the need for motion capture. We can tell an AI we want a voice in a mix of a German accent with a little bit of an Italian accent. And it'll spit that out for us. So your NPC character, your narrator, can now speak in that type of accent. What he didn't say was, now we don't need voiceover artists. We don't need motion capture equipment or the staff to actually do the motion capture. He even later in the piece talked about, hey, AAA game development sometimes takes teams of 1,000 people for a big AAA, $100 million project. And now that could be downsized to about 150. And he points out that does put the developers and the creatives closer to the project. And he also calls out that the smaller teams have, quote, fewer HR problems and less cumbersome management above them because there's far fewer staff to actually manage it. He sells all of this. Faster iteration on ideas, better games because of it, something we haven't actually seen bear fruit yet. That's going to take a little while. But he totally stays away from all of these ideas that he's talking about are faster and cheaper at the expense of actual people. And I don't know, from a software development standpoint, maybe you've heard of faster, cheaper, quickly. Pick two. I'm sorry, faster, cheaper, good. Faster, cheaper, good. Pick two. If you cash in on faster and cheaper, I'm just saying, the good usually suffers.
So the funny thing about this is SAG right now has already put out their ballots for striking video game companies.
Yeah.
They
early.
Will Wheaton posted his copy on Tumblr the other day. So they're already voting to strike.
Yeah, I wrote that piece back on September 1st when they announced a second strike against video game companies. That vote actually isn't due until September 25th. So, but the ballots are actually out already.
The ballots are out and they're definitely voting. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good bet that they're going to vote yes, because the rest of SAG is striking. So
he calls the advent of AI in the games development space, Troy, a bonanza. And he specifically cites that, like, Nexon hasn't really looked at, many years ago it was esports was going to be the next thing. Then it was metaverse. Then it was VR, and how he's kind of stayed away from most of those or getting heavily involved in those. But AI is the one to cash in on.
Did AI make Baldur's Gate 3? Because I don't think it did. And until these companies start realizing that it's quality video games that sell video games, not your marketing, not your BS, not your upper management. It's the people who put their heart and soul into video games that create good video games. They're just going to continue to struggle and produce shit that nobody wants. So congratulations to them for producing shit that nobody wants.
Recording.
Hey, we're done.
No, I'll be splicing that video together. No, not a problem. We're still recording. Finally, before we head on over to the weekly bombs, I meant to just check the timestamp and I hit the stop recording button. What an idiot. Professionals. Final Fantasy XIV had a cool interview about Variant and Criterion Dungeons. That's a bit too specific to really talk about in depth here, but the bigger news on the Square Enix front is they've lost about $2 billion in market value since Final Fantasy XVI released. And that's not cash on hand that they lost. That's their market value, stocks, price per stock over a period of time, etc. So it's not like real tangible cash that has disappeared, but potentially could have been used as capital in a merger, a sale, or just, getting funding for other things. There are downstream repercussions for losing that much. We're talking about double-digit percentage market share losses. Should Square Enix be worried, Q? I mean, obviously the MMOs are making tons of money. They're down, but they're still making tons of money. But Forspoken, Guardians of the Galaxy, Final Fantasy 16 was not the high end of expectations for them. It's just title after title after title. Stockholders are concerned with the processes that Square Enix is implementing behind the scenes and maybe giving individual producers too much power over their own little projects.
They don't mean Yoshi P.
Not at all.
The person over 2 games.
Yeah.
I don't know this, like, stock markets and all of that's not my area of expertise at all. So should they be worried? I am not the person to ask because that shit could go up in 2 days for all I know. So like they'll do something else. They'll put out some more of their little NFT fairy dust thing that they were going on for a while or something, and people whatever.
Their NFT fairy dust thing. Oh, you got me.
Should they be worried? Troy?
They should always be worried. Always.
I mean, I guess it does like spice them up for a sale potential, right? Like you get while the getting's cheap, right? Kind of had the feeling that Sony's been kicking the tires at Square Enix for quite some time.
Can't imagine why.
Let's go do the weekly bombs. I'm going to give a very scared A-bomb to the monetization of the new Sims. I'm going to leave it at that. Troy, go ahead.
Oh, crap. I didn't even see your bomb. That's what I was going to do. A-bomb to whatever abomination might be the marketplace in a free online Sims game.
Q. The trifecta, A-bomb to EA and the monetization of the Sims.
Well, if I'm giving an A-bomb to EA, it would be because I'm still to this day mad about the fact that they just decided to hold on to American McGee's Alice instead of letting him do the shit with it.
That's
because
fair.
They don't want to make the game, but it's an important part of their library.
But they don't want him to make it either.
They don't want, right, because it's an important part of their library.
Yeah.
We can't let you have it. We need to sit on it like it's an egg.
Tori the Chicken says A-bomb to Unity, and that's it. Just leaves it at that, which I think is damn good. But obviously, if you haven't heard, Unity trying to institute a price per download fee on all of the developers using the Unity engine, making it backwards compatible in some ways to certain numbers of downloads and certain numbers of revenue points. Obviously, a play at making money, which, okay, all companies try to do, but really putting the potential pinch on not just indie developers, but also big game developers as well. Troy, since you're not going to be on the cast tomorrow, I'll give you a few minutes to give your thoughts on what's going on with Unity here.
I just see them. They're picking up a bad time to try to do something like this, because you see something like Unreal Engine 5 gaining popularity with developers. We're even seeing MMOs being developed in Unreal Engine 5, and a lot of the tools and capabilities that engine has, a lot of developers are singing the praises of. And you look at something like Unity, and you're like, you're not the new shiny. You're kind of the old and busted. So, if you want to drive people over to Unreal Engine 5, congratulations. You just move those people on, because they don't want to deal with your BS. Even if you fall back on this and you say, "Oh no, sorry, never mind. That wasn't our original intention. It was, misunderstood, whatever." Never forget what they wanted to do. Never forget what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I was watching this all in real time, and I'm like, it doesn't, even if they backtrack on all of this, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You saw what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Tori's saying they're scrubbing the TOS. Yeah, that's going to be in the show tomorrow, about how previous versions of transparency things that they had in the TOS available have been scrubbed. You can't find them. Well, I mean, we can, but they're not where they were originally posted. So isn't UE5 too big for most small devs, which is what Unity is aimed at? Not necessarily. Remember, UE5 is very percentage of your sales. So if you have a smaller project, while there may be additional fees that Unity doesn't charge up front that make it a little more attractive out of the gate, Unreal Engine is very, what did you make? Okay, we're going to take X percentage of that. Not, hey, give us $40,000 and away we go. So it can be reasonable for some indie devs. Very, very small, then maybe you start running into some cost issues there. Too big to make a game in? No. Unreal 5, hell, I used the Unreal Engine to make stupid calculators and shit in college for software development. You can make very small things in UE, no problem. Honestly, there's not a lot that Unity does that Unreal doesn't to begin with. There are benefits to Unity, don't get me wrong there, but it's just learning how a UE5 does it, or the Unreal engines in general, how they do it. I know how to do it in Unity. I don't know how to do it in Unreal. It's all about education in a lot of cases. Not to say they're identical and are interchangeable. In some cases, they are not. Go ahead, take the next one, Q.
Moose Choker. Great name. I always find it funny when people skip the story of Final Fantasy XIV because they have WoW brain, thinking the in-game is where all the action is. The whole point of 14 is the story. No, the whole point of 14 is the fashion.
That's the whole point of any MMO these days, just the fashion.
Right.
Go ahead, Troy.
Nuno Silva.
Lots of feedback on this topic from last week, by the way.
In Final Fantasy XIV, story wasn't so boring at the start. New players would enjoy it more, and a skip wouldn't be needed.
That's right. That's right in Troy's wheelhouse right there.
That's right.
K-Series saying basically the same thing. 14's MSQ is soul-crushingly boring. It's what prevents me from ever coming back to play it. And I can't even argue. Like, I love the whole story and everything, but all the way up through Heavensward, it is a lot more of a slog than it is after that. And I'm never going to be one of those people that's like, yeah, Q, just give it 60 hours and it gets good. Like, that's not going to be me.
My free company leader assumed that I used a story skip to get caught up, because I started playing like 5 months before Endwalker came out, 5 or 6. Or I started playing on this account, I should say. I did have an account way back in the day. But he was like, oh, yeah, blah, is going on about how he's played through. And I was like, dude, like, I have not, I've used a story skip of my alts, but my main, I've done the entire story and all of the side quests and everything myself. Like,
go ahead, take the next one, Q. Stojan.
That was Stojaniski. DeBomb to GTA 5 online community. Turns out that there's some good players.
Yeah, I don't know how you ran into them. I've never run into them.
I mean, I have friends who have GTA 5 servers.
Well, yeah, that's different.
Yeah,
I've never
Yeah, you gotta-
accidentally run into a decent GTA 5 player.
I
I
think
was gonna say you got to get on the right server. You got to
yeah,
find a
I think
server.
Rachel's Savannah. I think Savannah. Do you remember her?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure
Sav.
she's on one. And Justin actually used to run one.
Go ahead, Troy.
Baron Vagabond says dub bomb to pretending to work. LOL.
Chirac214 says A-bomb to Unity for following Hasbro's strategy and expecting a different result. Got him. Go ahead, Q.
Ninja Pandas to bomb for it being the end of the week.
Amen. Go ahead, Troy.
Takao says A-bomb for me being loud and wrong. Fell for the YouTube notification. Okie doke. Responded in a heated manner at a comment that wasn't even aimed at me.
Yes, you did, and it was funny. I couldn't help but giggle when I saw the reference to your previous bomb in those comments. Most of the people were commenting. The question of the week last year was like getting not overwhelmed in an MMO, but most people decided to talk about specifically 14 and the story skip. Takao did give us one answer for this one, though. What can old MMOs do to help new people catch up? Probably nothing, if I'm being honest. For the most part, MMOs are must-see TV, and that you kind of got to be there as it happens. The longer the game's around, the more daunting it is for new folks, and I don't think there's really anything that can be done about that. Question of the week this week. Do you think EA and The Sims is going to be decent about monetization? Why? And if not, I want to know what is the example of the worst thing that they could monetize in The Sims? What is the worst thing that they could monetize? This should be fun. In the comments below, don't forget your weekly bombs. Dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the world of gaming, or just life in general. Until next week, Troy, where can everybody find you?
I'm on the socials at Noob Fridge.
Cute.
I'm still lurking on Twitter at Quentin.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb, and you'll know every time we're going live with a podcast, a stream, hanging out, playing games, or whatever. Until next time, gang, stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers.